All right, remember that figure questions are generally very easy. We want to make sure we lock in points here, but that doesn't mean we can race through it. We still need to just do the work. So let's take a look. Which choice is supported by the data in the first figure? So first and foremost, let's only focus on the first figure. So narrow your focus. Notice I didn't even give you the second one because who cares? It's not relevant. You have to kind of block it out of your brain while you're doing this question. We also don't need the passage. That's the other thing, is even though we just did all those questions about the passage, this doesn't require it. It doesn't say we need it. It's just about the figure. So A, the number of students using public transportation, okay, so students, is greater than the number of retirees using public transportation. Well, 10.7% is going to be bigger than 6.7%, so this seems true. Yeah, that's probably the answer. But the last thing I'm going to do here is just pick it and go on to the next question. You have to look at everything, right? I don't know if I'm being tricked. Maybe there's something I'm missing. And only through seeing all the choices, well, maybe I'll catch the trick and avoid it. So you have to, even on the easy ones, you have to kind of like treat everything like there's a potential trap and just be thorough, and you'll save yourself some points. So let's look at B. The number of employed people using public transportation, so employed, I guess is here. And the number of unemployed people using public transportation is roughly the same. Well, no, those are very different sizes of the pie, so no. C, people employed outside the home, okay, outside the home, so yep, same group there, are less likely to use public transportation than are homemakers. Well, you might get rid of this choice just based on the numbers, right? 72% is bigger than 2%, so that seems wrong. But I want to be clear that that's not even really the problem with this choice. I mean, what we're saying here, the way that this figure is constructed, it's saying of all the people who took public transportation in U.S. cities, this was the breakdown of their occupations. It doesn't mean that that's like the population of the U.S. is like this. So it's only a narrow slice of people who are taking public transit, and the vast majority are people who are employed outside the home. But I don't know if that makes them more likely to take it. I mean, it presumably does, but it just seems like an odd phrase. We don't really know, I guess, if any particular person is more or less likely. There's something about that is messing with the phrasing. And so I'm just warning you, the way that they do these graph questions sometimes, they do mess with things with percentages. And so this phrasing does not seem right. We're not really talking about probabilities here. This is reversing things in a weird way that makes me uncomfortable. D, unemployed people use public transportation less often than do people employed outside the home. So unemployed people, let me use the highlighter, use public transportation less often than do people employed outside the home. So again, this maybe is a better example of what I was just talking about. Because this seems kind of true, right? Less often, well, 6.4 is less than 72. So percentage-wise, that seems right. But the graph is not talking about how often people do it. I guess a good example might be like an unemployed person with no job, nothing to do during the day, let's say, might be just riding the train all day. They might just be going on a tour of New York City, riding every subway and just going all over the place. And so that person is on a train for pretty much the entire day, and maybe they're doing that every day, so every week they're mostly on the train. Maybe they're going genuinely to apply to jobs, so they're going from interview to interview, riding the train all the time. Whereas an employed person, presumably, would be taking the train to work for, I don't know, half an hour, and then home for a half an hour. So they're doing that every day for their job, but it's not necessarily the case that they're doing it less often, or the unemployed person is doing it less often, right? The unemployed person could be on the train for 15 hours a day, but the employed person is only on it for an hour. It's not a measurement of often. It's just a measure of who. That's what the chart is supposed to be saying. is it's not saying that unemployed people are only on the train for 6.4% of the time that the train is running, and employed people are on it for 72% of the time. That's not what this chart says. It's not quantifying the time. It's just talking about of all the people at any point in time who are on the train, 72% are going to be employed, 6.4% are not. Like, that's what this is saying. So what ends up happening here is the answer that we thought originally was right. And that is without any issue true, because if we're taking, 10.7% of 1,000 people, then that's 107 people, and 6.7% would be 67 people. So that's a different number. One is bigger than the other. All is good in the world with choice A. It's choice D, though, that's messing with us. And if the order were switched, if D were choice A and that was the first one we saw, I'd be very nervous that we would pick that and not look at the other choices, because it does seem kind of true. And it's the SAT using percentages and chart like data to kind of mess with us. So we just got to be on the lookout for that. It doesn't mean that this is a hard question. It just means that there's these kind of tricks that the SAT uses regularly that we need to be aware of. And one of them we just saw right here. Hopefully the difference between A and D is really clear now. If you did pick D, yeah, you made a mistake, but hopefully you can see the difference enough that next time you would be able to sort through that and pick the right one, because this is a mistake that they will try to get you to make again.